Good afternoon. My name is Ces Butner, and I have the honor to serve as this year's president of Rotary Club of Oakland. Founded in 1908, the Rotary Club of Oakland is the third oldest Rotary Club of some 35,000 Rotary clubs throughout the world. We are a community of 300 men and women from all walks of Oakland's civic, commercial, and community life, committed to the Rotary motto of service above self. I'd like to welcome you to our 5,321st club meeting. And for over 111 years, we have welcomed Rotarians and guests from around the world to our club meetings. We continue to do so virtually. So if you're a visiting Rotarian or if you're a guest of a Rotarian, please let us know by typing your name and the name of your club into the chat box located at the center bottom of your screen. By doing so, we will be able to recognize you later in this meeting. Also, we recommend that all participants view this Zoom meeting by clicking the speaker view button located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And if you have comments throughout the meeting or questions for speaker, please use the chat button at the bottom of the screen for that as well. And now for our thought for the day, Rotarian Lorie Alemania. Lorie.
Well, my thought for the day is an Irish retirement blessing for Pat. May you always have work for your hands to do. May your pockets hold always a coin or two. May the sun shine bright on your window pane. May the rainbow be certain to follow each rain. May the hand of a friend always be near you, and may God fill your heart with gladness to cheer you.
Thank you so much, Lorie, for setting the tone for the meeting with that inspirational thought for our retiring executive director, Pat. Because we want to remain grounded and focused, we begin our meetings by jointly reciting our vision, which is, together we see a world
where people unite
and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. As you may have noticed in the pre-meeting slides, the thermometer for the Rotary Foundation participation showed us at 85%. That's a record from our normal participation of 25 to 30%, and well on our way to changing the culture of the club to a sense of every Rotarian every year of giving to the Rotary Foundation. It is also tremendous progress toward 100% participation that my president's challenge seeks. Now the 40 or so Rotarians who have not yet pledged will be receiving a call from some members of the fundraising committee in the next week. So don't be shy, make your pledge today and meet the president's challenge of 100% participation. Last week's meeting was particularly enjoyable, where in the holiday spirit, we heard from Rotarians Carrie, Michael, and Rania on the 3 different celebrations of the holidays that reflect the diversity of our club. We also had Rotarian Steve Nichols and his company M&M Builders up the ante to match the Feed the Hungry program from 20,000 to 25,000. And the Rotary number 3 responded by raising another $2,400, making our total $22,400. And with that, the match is $44,800 that will go to 9 different organizations that feed the hungry in our community. Great work. Since I don't like odd numbers, I'd like to ring the bell with a match for, let's say, we'll raise 45,000 instead of 44,800, make it 44,000 for this year's Feed the Hungry program, a record that'll be set that Dudley, you're gonna have to beat next year. A record in fundraising and making a difference for food insecure residents. And then Rotarian Winter Williams moderated a discussion on criminal justice reform, the latest in our series of topics on racism and social equity that are committed to having throughout the year. In fact, it was quite a meeting last week so that we could dedicate this meeting to our retiring executive director, Pat Williams. We'll celebrate Pat and have some fabulous speakers still yet. Have time for a fabulous speaker still yet. So sit back and enjoy another in the great Civic Thursday meetings where you can catch a great speaker and get involved with Rotary where service above self exists. Past District Governor Ed Jelen, do we have any visiting Rotarians or guests?
President Seth, indeed we do today. We have some very nice guests. I'm going to start with a visiting Rotarian who's the past president of the Oakland Uptown Club.
Hi. You see my
And
text?
happy to welcome Sue McKinney with us.
anyway.
Welcome, Sue. And let me see who else I can find out there. Oh yeah, David Kirsten brought a guest with him today, Nancy Williams, who is the money with the money pages of the Oakland magazine. So welcome, Nancy. Nice to have you with us. And let's see if there's anybody else. Oh yeah, Stephen Blair brought his wife with us today, Fiona Doyle. So Fiona, nice to have you with us and welcome to Rotary. And that's my list, Seth.
Well, thank you so much and welcome guests. And thank you, Ed, and welcome all the guests. Rotarian Greg Anus, I believe you have a presentation from Yoon Hogue from the Rotary Vietnam Project, an interact effort by the district. But alas, Yoon had a scheduling conflict with school, and in her stead, we have Sue McKinney to give the presentation. Sue.
Thank you, President Seth. Are the slides up?
Yes. We'll get
Okay. Thank you. The Rotary Vietnam Project is, next slide. We enable Rotarians, interactors, and Rotaractors to fight human trafficking by supporting education for the poorest of the poor students in Vietnam. Vietnam is particularly susceptible to trafficking because of a shared border with Cambodia, which has had a sex trafficking industry for generations. And interestingly, the shared border with China on the north. China, for generations, has had a one child kill the girl baby policy that has created such a profound gender imbalance. There are 35 million men in China that will never have a wife. Therefore, there are about 70 million couples in China that will never have a grandchild. The solution is to buy the young Vietnamese bride to produce your grandchild. Next. We started in our trips to Vietnam in 2015 by distributing the indestructible soccer ball from north to south to help raise money and awareness. Next, this has been continued by Rotarians like John Greasley, taking our soccer balls literally all over the world. And in the years since 2015, we've raised over $200,000 to sponsor students to stay in school in Vietnam. Next. We also conduct service trips to Rotary International conventions where our interactors have presented our project to literally thousands of Rotarians. Next. We also sponsor service trips to Vietnam. In July 2019, we taught over 720 scholarship recipients at the summer camp. Obviously, we couldn't go this year. Next. But instead, we sent $80,000 to an English intensive summer camp that included career aptitude coaching for the students. English is an essential skill to have if you're going to get a good job after school. Next. Our project is interact driven. Our interactors of a committee of over 20 every year help us raise funds. Generally, they will speak at Rotary clubs and they conduct their own fundraising events as well. Next. Our success in fundraising has enabled us to apply for 2 global grants this year in cooperation with the Rotary Club of Queensland, Singapore, and the Rotary Club of Colombo, Sri Lanka. Next. How do we do service in the time of COVID? We're doing English conversation tutoring. It requires no special skills whatsoever. And you can also sponsor an interactor to be an English conversation tutor. This is done next online at hours convenient to you, direct to students in Vietnam. Next. You might want to take a photo or a screen grab of this slide, which is how you can contact us for more information. Next, we've established a goal of $50,000 for this year. Next, and thank you very much to Oakland 3.
Well, thank you so much for that information. Interact continues to do good work, and that is with the district that will be sure to apply. We're at our final meeting of the year. Simultaneously, we have Pat Williams' final meeting, our executive director who came to us at a time when we had lost our ED of some 25 years. And we didn't know if we could find someone to fill our shoes. Then along came Pat. And for the last 7 years, you have filled them admirably. What can I say about what Pat has meant to Oakland Rotary number 3? I just know that what she has meant to me. You're the glue that keeps this organization together, the historian and the conscience of the club that keeps presidents like myself tied to the Rotary traditions. And with your legal background, the one who makes sure we keep our risk at a minimum. What can I say? Well, fortunately, today, we have 7 of our past presidents who can say, what's up, and have come here today to honor you. So in reverse order, starting with last year's president, past president, Peter Sherris.
Hi, Rotarians. So Pat, I wanted to thank you so much for making it possible and easier for me to serve in that position last year. The thing that I appreciate about you most is something that Seth mentioned, which was your history and your understanding of the history of the club. It's quite challenging for a president to come in to have ideas about what he or she would like to do. And you were extremely helpful to me to make sure that I didn't do anything that was stupid or violate the traditions of the club. And even when I did decide to do something a little differently, you accepted that and with grace, and you didn't give me a hard time. And so I just want to thank you for your help to me to be president for the year. Thank you very much.
And next, past president, Gudrun Daibo, all the way from Reno.
Oh, yeah, from Truckee. Beautiful snowy day up here. Pat, from attending large club conference in Nashville to the magical Rotary in the Meadow, a farm to table fete at Mills College, you enriched my year as president. Always with a smile and always looking out for the best for the club and for Oakland. After many site visits, the club chose to stay in the California ballroom with changes. What an adventure we had clearing out the storeroom to make way for those changes. You were always there for club activities, from the PALS youth camp, pre-summer cleanup, kinder prep book packing, and staffing the Oakland Marathon water station, and fun and fitness along the way with hikes on hikes with the president. Pat, you are a Rotarian through and through, and I hope to see you in Truckee when we can all get out and about for some great Sierra hiking. Thank you, and a great big virtual hug. Wishing you and Phil and your family all the very best. Fun and travel. Love you. Bye. Virtual hug.
Past President Sean Marks. John,
There you go.
all right.
Thank you, President Seth. And thank you so much, Pat. I wanted to share a story of service above self as it relates to Pat. My first job as president-elect was to find a new home for our club. What that consisted of is going and checking out venues, and probably more importantly, going and having wonderful lunches all around Oakland to test the food. But Pat accompanied me on each of those journeys. And Peter, I guess Goodwin finished off the work on our final home for the near future. So we finally were able to negotiate a great deal in the place we were in. And that deal included substantial upgrades to the ballroom, which we've only gotten to experience a little bit of because of COVID. A really wonderful new conference room, and hang on, Pat's new office. Pat, you put the club way in front of yourself when you agreed to move from your very spacious luxury office to a closet. Thank you very much. It was wonderful working with you. Best of luck with what you have in front of you. We're all going to miss you very much.
Past President Linda Bosnecker.
Hi, Pat. It is so hard to believe that it was only 7 years ago that I was sitting across the table in John P.'s conference room interviewing you. And I was fairly confident, as was the rest of the group, that we had made the right decision when we selected you for the ED for Oakland Rotary. It took only a few weeks of watching you transition into the position to know that we made the right decision. You've been a thoughtful, caring, knowledgeable leader who's partnered with the club leaders to move this club forward. I was the fourth president you worked with, so you were already pretty seasoned before I came along, but I was honored to be your partner. And as others have said, there are so many things I could thank you for and stories I could tell, but President Seth would cut me off. But I will share a couple of things. Like all presidents, I approached my year with more goals than I could ever accomplish. We had just completed the strategic plan, and one of the major tactics we wanted to accomplish was implementing a revision of our website. You were willing to take that on and project manage that throughout my entire year. You took that on top of your already heavy workload, and the new website, it's not so new anymore, but it will serve the club for many years to come, and it was a testament to your diligence. And the other thing I want to share is a personal note. As most of the club knows, I was still living in Clayton when I became president, and you went out of your way to make sure I had space in the office so that I could meet with people, do my work, and I can tell you that without that accommodation, I would not have been as successful. So Pat, when I looked back in my computer, we worked together through 48 lunch meetings, 32 executive team meetings, 12 board meetings, and countless committee meetings. And I have the utmost respect for you, and we still remained friends. Congratulations on your retirement. You deserve it. And President says, I would also like to ring the bell, as many have been for Pat. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Past President Linda Chu.
Thank you, President Seth. I'd like to share a little story about Pat, as have some of my colleagues. Pat first demonstrated her enthusiasm and can-do spirit even before she officially was on the job. Several weeks before she was supposed to start work, the annual Large Club Conference was about to take place. The conference was organized by the executive directors of the largest clubs in the United States. Pat agreed to attend in order to get a perspective on the challenges and the logistics that large club large clubs face and what differs from most other Rotary clubs. So off to Memphis, Tennessee we went. John Protopappas and I were the incoming president-elects who went with her. Pat immediately impressed her fellow executive directors when, on the bus, as we were getting ready to go on a field trip, one of the EDs said to the group, "So who's been here the shortest? Which ED has been here the shortest?" Well, the answers rang out: 1 year, 6 months, 3 months. And then Pat said, "I haven't officially started my job yet." Wow, that got everybody's attention. The fact that she was so dedicated about learning what working for a large Rotary club would be like, and the support she could get from her fellow EDs just further fortified that can-do spirit that I've come to appreciate and still do today as she now passes the torch. There are many stories I could tell, but as one of my colleagues said, President Seth will cut me off because we'll run out of time. So we can
All right.
cover that. At any rate, congratulations, Pat. It's been an honor to work with you. And President Seth, I too want to ring the bell in honor of Pat. Thank you.
Thank you. Past President John Protopappas.
President Ces, good afternoon. 7 years ago in December of 2013, our 25-year executive director, Lori Sinclair, let us know that she would be leaving Oakland Rotary. Many of us couldn't imagine Oakland Rotary without Lori's role as our executive director. At the time, I was president-elect, and I was asked to chair the committee called the Oakland Rotary No. 3 Executive Director Search Task Force Committee. The members of the committee included C.J. Hirschfeld and past presidents Jack McAvoy, Iris Brody-Lopez, Robert Kidd, Michael Bruck, Linda Chu, Lorna Padilla-Marcus, Linda Bosnecker, and the late Gene Zajas. We interviewed a total of 10 candidates, and one candidate stood out above all the others, and it was Pat Williams. The committee voted unanimously to offer Pat the job, and fortunately for us, she accepted. Michael Bruck was president of Oakland Rotary that year, and you'll hear from Michael in a minute. And Pat immediately embraced her role in our club. She took charge. She immersed herself in our club and all of its activities. And she involved herself with great enthusiasm and passion for all of our programs. That July, I became president, and Pat was so valuable to me, our executive committee, our board of directors, the trustees of the Oakland Rotary Endowment, and our membership. In fact, during my year as president, we brought in 71 new members, and Pat was the key who made it. She was the one who made it happen. So it was a special year for me. She was always a great partner. Her diligent work was always completed with exceptional professionalism and a positive sense of humor and a smile that has added value to all of our lives. Pat, thank you very much. We wish you great health and happiness in the future. We will miss you.
All right. And finally, the first president you worked for, past President Michael Bruck.
Well, Pat, we've come full circle. You started your career with Oakland Rotary during my term in the spring of 2014, and now you're wrapping things up. Doesn't seem like 7 years has passed. Pat was the first executive director, as was mentioned, that the club hired in over 25 years, and few of us had any experience either in hiring an ED or making the transition from the outgoing to the incoming executive director. But as it turned out, there was no need to worry. Pat immediately jumped in, and with her assistance, the club lunch meetings and service projects and events just continued without any interruption. I particularly enjoyed working with Pat because she's a fellow attorney. I think we looked at problems and approached problems in the same way, and that was kind of fun. Pat not only applied her administrative skills to her job as ED, but she applied her passion as a longtime Oakland volunteer. I relied on Pat for her wise advice, her perspective. She helped lead the continued growth in membership, fundraising, renegotiating the lease for the office and the ballroom, and led us into the land of virtual meetings. Pat was also dedicated to organizing the Rotary office. She scheduled not just one, but yearly cleanup days in the old, much larger Rotary office, and the ultimate cleanup day when the office got downsized into its current much smaller configuration. Pat, I hope you still have your souvenir tiny Rotary office from Gudrun's demotion. Hang on to that. Pat and Phil joined the Oakland Rotary delegation to the 2017 Rotary International Convention in Atlanta. I enjoyed our adventures there in Atlanta with you, and I appreciated your insights into the area where you grew up. I know the past presidents who worked with Pat appreciated the extraordinary time and effort she devoted to our club. Any success that we enjoyed as club presidents was due in no small part to your work behind the scenes. Pat, thank you for all your service to the Rotary Club of Oakland. Congratulations on your retirement, and ring the bell.
All right. We have some gifts for you that we can present. Well, I can't present them virtually, but President-elect Dudley will deliver to you. First, since you work your fingers to the bone for Rotary, we have a gift certificate for Nailforia Day Spa. Second, we understand your love of hiking, so we got you a gift certificate for REI that you can use. And third, we have a Rotary plaque commemorating your 7 years of service above self that will be delivered to you post haste by your successor, Jesse. Finally, I'd like to ring the bell myself for Pat Williams. Thank you, Pat, so much for all that you have done for all of us throughout those years. Let's get a big round of applause for Pat. Pat, do you have anything to say?
Well, I do, and I will try to make this, I know we have a speaker, and the speaker's great, because I love stained glass, so I am overwhelmed. Thanks to each of you. Special thanks to those who organized the virtual background and all the special touches for today. Some have asked what I'll do in retirement. Hiking, reading, volunteering, traveling when I can, trying some new things like pickleball are on my list. I expect to spend more time with friends and family, including my grandson, Austin. And I do plan to stay involved as a member of the club. A decade ago, I could never have imagined working for a Rotary Club, but I knew that I wanted to work for an organization that did good in Oakland, and in particular helped Oakland's kids. So it was my lucky day 7 years ago when David Stein told me that Rotary Club of Oakland was looking for a new ED. I discovered that our club was what I was looking for and more. It would take me a long time to tell you what this position has meant for me. So instead, I'll focus on 4 life lessons that the position has reinforced for me. Lesson 1, adults, like children, want some structure, and Rotary provides that structure. Each of us can count on a regular meeting, consistent values, good conversation, people who care. Rotary is a constant in our lives. Lesson 2, friendship is beautiful. My son Daniel was visiting at one of my first meetings. It was so early that I can't tell you who the names of the members at the table we were sitting at. But President Michael gave us some time for fellowship. So I asked the people at the table, what does Rotary mean to you? One member looked at the man next to him and said, I met my best friend. To me, that said so much about Rotary. Lesson 3, connections are powerful. How do we obtain most of our awesome speakers? Through member connections. How does our club get so much done with our club's annual $200,000 or so ORE budget? It's through our connections locally and globally. And of course, look how much Rotary has done around the world to eradicate polio. It's through our connections with large organizations. I've heard so many stories about interpersonal connections among members. My message to you, stick with Rotary and your personal connections are going to expand exponentially. My lesson 4, true leaders inspire. A perk of this position has been working with the presidents that you just heard from. Each is an amazing leader, and I'm proud of what each led the club to accomplish in his or her year. If I'd been smart, I would have been taking notes from day one, and I would have the material for a bestseller on leadership. Each has committed his or her heart and soul to their role. And for each, I retain vivid images that make me smile. I don't have time to go through all those, but I'll say I'll miss working with each of the leaders that I have on a daily basis, but I'm counting on continuing to see you. I'd like to wrap this up, President Ces,
Yes.
by recognizing all the presidents and the presidents to come who I've worked with and who have inspired me. So President Ces, would you please ring the bell 10 times for Michael Bruck, for John Protopapas, for Linda Chu, for Linda Bosnecker, for Sean Marks, for Gudrun Dibdal, for Peter Sherris, for Ces Butner, Dudley Thompson, and Mary Jeong.
Wow. What a
I love
wonderful
all you
gift.
guys. I love all you members. Thank you.
Wow, what a wonderful gift. Thank you so much for all you have done for us. And I invite everyone else to put it in the chat if you're going to ring the bell for our retiring Executive Director, Pat Williams. Thank you so much, Pat. Rotarian Jason Wizelman, do us the honor of introducing this week's Civic Thursday speaker.
Well, this is a surprise, I have nothing prepared, but I will tell you that Ted Ellison is a master of glass. Sometimes referred to in his circle as a glaster, and I can say from my own personal experience that his work is incredibly inspiring and will move all of you. And from that, I just say, take it away, Ted.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. First slide, please.
It's slide, Sandeepa. Hello. Here we go.
There we go. Okay, so thank you everyone for having me. Pat, I would just, that was such an inspiring, I don't know you. This is my first ever Rotary meeting, but that was quite a send off. That was really inspiring. I'm happy to be included in this meeting and in this organization today. So I'm going to talk about my my history in this work and what I've been doing here in Oakland for the past 22 years. I moved to Oakland from Southern California. I was a wood shop drafting kid in high school, and I started going to Laney College, taking art classes there, and then I transferred to San Francisco State, and they had a glass program. And through that program, I started to build and design leaded glass windows, and I arranged for myself an apprenticeship to make leaded glass windows here at a studio that's no longer around. The studio at the time was in West Oakland. Next slide, please. And so I started, I was an Oakland substitute teacher at the time. I was thinking I was going to be an art school teacher or an art teacher in the Oakland Public Schools, but it wasn't quite right for me. So I shifted my focus to to building a career out of leaded glass, making leaded glass windows for historic homes all around the country. So that last slide was an image of Frank Lloyd Wright work in Los Angeles. And this is one of my first exposures to this period. And this is the work of Charles and Henry Green. They were contemporaries of Frank Lloyd Wright's, who were working around the turn of the century in Southern California. And they had a kind of a very organic and Japanesque style. Next slide, please. And so in addition to these American influences in my work, there's also kind of an European Art Nouveau influence where around the turn of the century, around Europe and across the United States, there are a number of different designers and architects and artists who were imagining new ways to create decorative arts that were different from the Victorian, their Victorian predecessors. Next slide, please. So being an Oaklander, I was interested in a regional style of our own, and there really isn't a Bay Area regional style, but there's, through the work of Bernard Maybeck, there is a kind of a regional style of architecture that he and Julia Morgan were involved with creating. And some of the lines you can see in in this building, this is the First Church in Berkeley. Most of the leaded glass is all diamond pane, but there's a certain graphic character in his architecture which I started to use in my windows. Next slide, please. So I started developing a style of design that was kind of inspired by architecture. My windows are not intended to be freestanding pieces just to hang in front of your windows. They're really intended to be part of the architecture. Next slide. And we get hired for projects all over the country to build windows. And when I say we, there's me and I have 4 full-time craftspeople. One's been with me for 14 years. The other one's been with me for 13 years. My son works here. And we get these projects and we strive to maintain the handcrafted tradition of leaded glass, but also create work. I don't really think of this in terms of it's something that was done at one point. I think it's a way of working with metals and glass to solve problems of privacy and add interest and control light. Next slide, please. And basically, you know, understanding these regional traditions and creating beautiful works for homes all over the country, but primarily here in the Bay Area. This is a stairwell landing window. This is a window, that's okay. You can go to the next slide. This is a window for a home in Rockridge, and I had done the client really wanted a redwood theme for their windows, so I created this design, and it uses multiple layers of glass to create these kind of pine needle, or these redwood, I don't know if you call them leaf clusters or redwood leaves, whatever they are, with little pine cones at the end. So there's multiple layers of glass in the green area. So we're using techniques that have been part of the stained glass tradition for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we're keeping them current by making these works. Next slide. We also make lay lights for homes. If you live in an older home and you don't want to look at you know, plastic skylight lens when you look up, we can create something that will add some interest and let some light come into the home. Next slide. And you know, a lot of my work starts out as very small windows. I'll have an idea for a window, for a way of working, and I will create that design either as an autonomous small window, just something to show clients and take to meetings, or as small installations, and those often will lead to larger commissions. Next slide. So this is a green inspired. Now those are the Southern California architects who they actually have a house in Berkeley near campus. It's called the Thorson House, but they had a whole way of depicting nature and natural themes in their leaded glass work. So this is a work definitely inspired by that tradition, but this is an original composition made with multiple layers of glass for a home in Fairfield. Next slide. This is an early window of mine, kind of a Frank Lloyd Wright inspired geometric window, kind of bordering on contemporary modern work. And this led to this design. And this is a home in Rockridge, and they wanted something private because they're right on the street. And for this window, they also wanted to be able to see who was at the door before they opened it. So I designed a little flap window, so you could basically open it up and there's another, it's hinged from the top. So that top square in the center long panel, there's about 5 or 7 pieces of glass there. That thing hinges up, and so you can see through, there's a piece of glass there. You can see who's at the door before you open it. But this is kind of, to me, it's like with, you know, stylized wisteria. One of the things that makes my work unique is that we use the metal not just to hold the glass together, but as a sculptural part of the window. So this is all soldering. So typically when you see a leaded glass window, you'll see, say if it's a church window, you'll see a figure and you'll see the lead lines there to kind of hold the glass in place. But one of the things that was common in the period of the glass that I'm inspired by was integrating the glass and the color and the metalwork to kind of create a seamless, unified design. So the engineering and the aesthetics of the window is all one idea. Next slide. And from that last project, a client was quite taken with that small window we had here in our shop, and so they wanted some large windows. So these windows are for a home in San Francisco, and they, as you can see, they looked out onto a light well of their neighbor's home, and their neighbor's home. Sometimes the sides of our homes aren't the most attractive places. So one of the things I am often doing is view management. We're selecting glass and creating ornament to solve an issue. In this case, to kind of let a ton of light in and diffuse the view, and also to add some organic beauty to the home. Next slide. This is a custom project for a home in Berkeley. Now, when people buy windows and doors, they often will go down to the lumber yard and start looking through catalogs and ordering things from factories. But we're a small business here in Oakland. We're in East Oakland, and I partner with other small businesses. In this case, there's a door maker out in Martinez. It's a one-person shop, and he makes his own doors and windows. And so I encourage our clients to seek out small businesses to keep these traditions going. And oftentimes, what they're getting is much higher quality and of about the same price point as what you're going to get from one of these large manufacturers. We also make lighting. This is a project we did for a home in Dallas. So I would design all this. I don't do all the woodworking. This is another local craftsperson I work with. He did all the woodwork for my designs. And this is inspired by an original light from, I think, 1909 at a house in Pasadena, California. Next slide. This is a kind of another design of mine, a quarter-sawn oak light with geometric panels hanging from leather straps. And we use another design for a home in Berkeley, and we contract with a firm in Berkeley called Metro Lighting, and they do all of our UL listed electrical work. Next slide. And we also are interested in, and it's important as a stained glass business in 2020 to always be looking forward to the future. And my early interest in glass and design was as a modernist. And so we're introducing new designs and new approaches to keep leaded glass, not just in period homes, but in contemporary homes. Next slide. And by using simple patterns and handmade materials, I find that, and my clients find that these surfaces and these windows act as lenses that can create privacy and kind of diffuse the view. Next slide. So the last part of my work I want to talk about is kind of linked to my interest in the tradition that my work grows out of. And I was in Pasadena in 2001, and I saw this monumental glass mosaic, but there's no information on who made this glass mosaic, Fireplace. So next slide. I started doing some research, and I've been researching the firms that were working out of Chicago around the turn of the century, and they created a way of using glass as a mosaic, primarily for fireplaces. So when I realized that these were all made out of glass and made by stained glass studios, I thought maybe we could be doing something with all the 20 years of glass scraps that have been accumulating. So we started making mosaics in a similar tradition. This is something we just installed, or was just installed for a home in New Hampshire. And this is oak tree mosaic for a home in Rockridge. These are made in our workshop, and they're mounted to a piece of backer board, and they are installed as a single piece. Next slide. A lot of my work starts out as I said before, as an idea panel. And this next slide. This was commissioned by a husband for his wife, whose father had recently passed away, and her father was an avid gardener, and he wanted to. His favorite flower was the black-eyed Susan, so he commissioned this as a memorial to her father. Next slide. This is one of our more contemporary patterns for a home in Oakland. Next slide. So this is all hand cut glass. It's all made in America. All of we always use the best materials that we can and handcraft these things one at a time. Next slide. This is a contemporary fireplace for a home in the South Bay. And all of this and doing the geometry for this work is all done in the computer. So one of the nice things about this mosaic work is it kind of behaves like tile, it looks like tile, but we're able to change the geometry so that the pattern resolves perfectly within the architectural space. Next slide. There's kind of a detail of the honed surface with this kind of iridescent glass. Next slide. This is an idea for a fireplace with American opalescent glass. Next slide. This is a kitchen here in Oakland. They wanted a feature wall. And so this 10-foot tall by 5-foot wide installation was made in 3 panels. And it takes just a few hours for us to install these. We make templates from the site. We bring the templates back to the shop, fabricate everything, and bring everything to the site and install it. Okay. So how am I doing? I got a few more minutes here. I'm just gonna real quick talk about the process. So I work with clients to design these things, but I design everything myself. And I'll create a full-size pattern and we'll print it out. My crew, next slide, cuts everything by hand. In this case, we're using glass, and the flowers on this design are mother of pearl, which we get and cut by hand. Next slide. And then we mount everything, and this is, here it is in the shop before we sent it out to be installed. Next slide. And so here's a detail of it. You can see the mother of pearl and these little bits, these little amber bits of glass were some old shades that were destroyed. It was Tiffany glass that was destroyed in a fire of an antique dealer, but we bought all the glass and we use it from time to time as little bits of historical inclusions in my work. So that's actually Tiffany glass right there. And here you can see the kind of the detail of the glass work. So I'm very interested in maintaining these traditions and expanding them by using handworking and the very best materials and keeping these traditions alive through my work.
Well, thank you so much, Theodore.
You got it.
I believe we have some questions from you that have surfaced. Susie, will you handle the questions for us today?
Sure, happy to, President Ces. So David Stein's question is, are there historic stained glass pieces in Oakland and the Bay Area?
Yeah, there are. Unfortunately, the ones I'm most aware of, I mean, there's a lot of church windows here in the Bay Area, in Oakland, but the main installations I'm aware of are the monumental mosaic at the Lake Merritt Methodist Church. It's a Tiffany mosaic, and it was not original to the church. It was built for a church in Los Angeles and brought up here in the early 90s. It's an incredible installation. And then there are several windows at the Grand Lake Theater, Tiffany windows. Again, not native to Oakland, but probably one of the most important installations is up in Vallejo on Mare Island at St. Peter's Chapel. It's the largest collection of Tiffany windows west of the Mississippi. It's once they open that thing up, it's a great field trip. You're gonna go into the small chapel and it's filled. Every window is made by Tiffany. There were some Bay Area designers who, unfortunately, I've not had enough time to do research on their work, but I could do a whole talk on, interesting, and I've even done tours on amazing installations around the Bay. So it's a whole other lecture, I think.
Great, thanks. So Gary Flaxman's question is, what kind of design or educational background did you and your son have?
Well, I started out at Laney College just doing art, and then going over to San Francisco State studying art and ceramics. And then they had a glass program. So through that glass program, I was able to arrange a 2-year apprenticeship for myself. And but most of my, so basically that gave me the mechanical knowledge of how to work with material. But all of my interest in historical design was just self-generated. When I started my business, I thought that there was a better way to make windows for turn of the century homes than what I was seeing. So I started looking at what architects were putting in their homes and what, you know, was happening during the period. And I started to become, through my own interest, aware of what was being done in the period. So, and from that, I kind of created my own style.
Rini wants to know if you have worked with Paco Prieto.
I don't know that name.
Okay. Deborah Barnes is asking, she says she's sitting in her 1902 arts and crafts bungalow in Berkeley. She has 23 windows, the majority original wavy glass. When you do window designs, do you replace these or do you work with what's already there?
Yeah, sometimes if people want to retain that old wavy window glass, we do extract it and put something temporary in its place, and we can use that material. One of the things I'm fanatical about is that the history of these building materials. We're so used to seeing hardware store glass, which is perfectly flat, and but when you take, you know, this old wavy window glass, which is part of this historical process, and it's just what's supposed to be in these buildings. Hey, when you replace it with something contemporary, it doesn't look right. And so we either use existing glass, or there is a company in Germany that still makes that wavy window glass. So all of our glass choices are intended to suit the character of the home.
Great. So Greg Knight is asking, do you offer classes on making stained glass?
I do. And I've been teaching for a few years now, and I just totally love it. And my first class was last April, April earlier this year, and of course I had to cancel it. So I had this whole program of every 4 months I was going to teach a different class, because there's not really a place for people to learn the big basics, and also for people who are interested in stained glass, how to develop their business. Because I've been fortunate for a lot of reasons to figure out how to do this, but there's not a way for a lot of small designers to figure out how to make architectural windows. So you can go to my website, and there's information on the classes. And once it's, you know, the coast is clear, I'm going to start offering classes. And if you email me, I'll put your name on the list. So when we're ready to open up classes again, and they'll be taught here in my workshop, we'll let you guys know, you know, first before I open up to the public.
Where is your studio?
I'm on I'm on East 14th Street and 13th Avenue. I've been here since 1996. It's an old pool hall. It used to be Slaughter's Pool Hall. This building was built in the 20s. And when we first I don't own the building, we rent the building, but we've been working with the landlord, Silvera, to maintain the property, the face of our building. And so I'm very proud of the fact that we have like zero graffiti. We keep the street clean, and you know, we keep a low profile here, but I love this place. It's
all right. It seems as though Ed has already entered your email address into the chat room, so everybody can get a hold of you.
Great.
And we sincerely love having you as our speaker for the day on this very special day for us when we were having Pat's retirement.
Thank you for having me.
Our club is making the homeless crisis in Oakland a priority. To that end, and as our gift to you for being our speaker for the day, in your honor, we are making a donation to support our unhoused residents in Oakland. Additionally, we would like to give you our centennial book, which documents 100 years of service and friendship in the third oldest club in the Rotary world. Thank you so much for being our speaker today. Past President Linda Bosnecker, I believe you have an announcement.
I do, President Seth. And Holiday Linda is back now instead of past president. And I'm here to remind you that tonight from 5:30 to 6:30 is our final cocktails of the year, Holiday Cocktails with President Seth. You should have received an email where President-elect Dudley sent a couple of potential cocktails you might like to try, the Jerry Mariachi or the Light at the End of the Tunnel, or bring your own cocktail and join us. We encourage you or invite you to come in festive dress, whatever that means to you. Perhaps you have an ugly Christmas sweater you haven't been able to wear this year, or a cocktail dress that you haven't been able to wear. There will be prizes for the most festive attire, and we'll spend some time with some holiday trivia. So join us tonight for Holiday Cheer, 5:30 to 6:30. Thanks.
Thank you. Rotarian David Stein, past President David Stein. Will you tell us about the speaker for our next meeting, which will be the first meeting of the year?
January 7, the first Thursday of the new year. We'll get off to a quick start with the Mayor of Oakland, Libby Schaaf. Where's Oakland been? Where's it going? How's it addressing the homeless crisis? Don't miss it. It'll be a great start to the new year. Come to Civic Thursday.
Thank you for that introduction. Thank you, Lorie, for the thought for the day. Thank you, Greg and Ewan and Sue, for introducing the Interact program in Vietnam. Thank you, past president, for helping us celebrate Pat's retirement. And thank you, Linda, for reminding us about Cocktails with the President. Thank you, Jason, for introducing the speaker. Thank you, Joe and Leanne, for all you do for TRF. And thank you, Steve and M&M Builders and all the donors for our record-breaking Feed the Hungry program. And finally, a big thank you to Pat Williams for your 7 years of service to Oakland, and enjoy your retirement.
How many bell ringers?
For the last time this year, Pat and Jesse, before I wrap up this meeting, do we have any more bell ringers? You can name all the bell ringers off. Pat, Jesse?
I think I've got the list here. Sorry if I'm a little overwhelmed, so sorry if I missed anyone. First of all, there's a 0708, and I can't figure out who that is. If anybody, speak up. There was a 0708.
McAvoy.
It's
Jack McAvoy. That's Jack McAvoy.
Okay, so here we go. Jack, thank you very much. These were for me. I'm just overwhelmed. Jack McAvoy, Joe Garalka, Shannon Hackley, Lorna Padilla Marcus, Steve Blair, Jason Wizelman, Mary Giang, Bob Breeker, Mike Mallory, Susie Yokomizo, David Stein, Alex Polson, Karen Friedman, Lorie Alemania. Oh, no, I'm sorry, excuse me, Harold Lowe. Can't read my handwriting. Dudley Thompson, Diane Schaefer, Bruce Nice, Christine Watson, Georgia Richardson, Marie Savramuthu, Bob Barth, David Kittner, Michael Malone, Fred Morse, Deborah Barnes, Gudrun Dibdell, Cedric Titus, John Protopappas, Isaac Cosreed, Robert Kidd, Ces Butner, John Clausen, Michael Valva, my husband Phil, Cal Stanley, Linda Chu, Steve Allo, Sean Marks, and Joyce Mack. Thank you very much. I count that as 39, and then there are the 10 bell ringers for me.
You missed me, Pat, Linda B.
And Linda Bosnecker. Oh, wow, that makes, I think that makes 50. And then there was one person who rang the bell for Ted.
Alita, I did too.
Okay, and that was Alita. And Alita rang the bell for Ted.
And so, Michael Brook for you.
No, they rang the bell
Michael
for you, Pat. I rang the bell for you, Pat.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for
Congratulations.
all those bell ringers. And one last round of applause for our retiring executive, Pat Williams.
Go, Pat. We love you.
So I'd like to end this meeting, last meeting of the unusual 2020 year, as we always do. And that's the way it went at the 5,321st club meeting on December 17th, 2020 at the Oakland Rotary number 3, the third oldest Rotary club in the world. Everybody, remember, Rotary opens opportunity for service above self. And from now, this meeting of the Rotary Club of Oakland is adjourned.